So have you guys heard the news? They're banning everything in AEW. Wrist lock, banned. Armbar, banned. Powerbomb, banned. Pile driver, banned. I'm joking. They're not actually doing that. Actually, they are prohibiting people from using a pile driver without permission first. But let's rewind here a little bit. Earlier today, Fightful Select dropped a bit of a bombshell, depending on what your definition of a bombshell is, because I kind of feel like this is much ado about nothing, but still it's worth talking about that there is a document being passed around AEW that seems to have some sort of officiality to it, that apparently bans a couple different moves and then has a bunch of other moves and spots that have to require permission before they're put in a match, before people do them. And honestly, this seems like a common sense thing that seems to have been coming for a while now that they're all legit and they're negotiating for a TV deal. But so let's go ahead and back up and we'll talk about this document. Again, this comes from Fightful Select. They got a great reputation. Sean Ross Sapp, of course, does great work over there. I'd suggest if you like wrestling news, if you like some validity to your wrestling news, if you want to know that, hey, this is coming from probably multiple sources, and this dude's doing his job and his due diligence, then you should subscribe to Fightful Select because they're pretty great. Let's go ahead and take a look at this first. It says here, according to Fightful Select, a document was sent out that outright banned unprotected chair shots to the head, which it really should have been from the get-go. You guys remember when Sean Spears blasted Cody Rhodes in the head and everybody's like, you probably shouldn't have done that. Also banned shots to the back of the head. I assume that means like, punches and things to the back. This is a very sensitive area right here. Even in like normal fighting, you're not allowed to hit back here. Buckle bombs, which Sting would probably appreciate, because if you remember back in 2015 when Sting was in WWE, he took that nasty looking buckle bomb from Seth Rollins and he got like some whiplash or neck injury because of it. It was a very scary moment as my dog starts shuffling back there before she settles in. Also, blind moves backwards into the turnbuckle, which I'm assuming if you're with somebody and then you do a move back and it goes towards the turnbuckle, maybe that's a big no-no. This next one, fencing responses, which is an unnatural position of arms following a concussion. So if I get knocked for a loop and I go like this, that's what that is. Also seizure cells, which seems specifically aimed at one Bryan Danielson, because that guy did like a seizure bit at that last pay-per-view that had everybody freaked out. Spitting, which I've seen a lot of people spit in the ring, so I wonder if this is more like spitting at like the crowd or something, because this next one is bleeding in the crowd. So let's say any Mox match that goes into the crowd is now going to be, no, you can't do that anymore. Weapons or projectiles in the crowd. So you can't throw like, ninja stars at people in the crowd, or if wrestlers are in the crowd, you can't like chuck stuff there. Taking drinks or food items from guests in the crowd, which MJF probably is the reason for this one, because there was that time when he saw that little kid and I think he like slapped the drink out of his hand or something like that. Or physical contact with the crowd. So basically stay away from the crowd. Don't do anything involving the crowd. Like, I guess they can go up into the crowd, but they just can't be touching the crowd. They'll have security there keeping them away from crowd. Honestly, like this whole last part just seems to relate to MJF, who likes to go out there and mess with people. It says, we're told nothing with blood on it should be thrown into the crowd either. I don't know who that would pertain to unless Mox himself was being thrown into the crowd. Or if CM Punk wanted to do a stage dive after cutting himself shaving, perhaps. I don't know. But in any event, you don't want your crowd getting blood on them. This isn't a goddamn Gallagher event, in which case even Gallagher, I think, stopped short of actual blood. He would smash like food items, like various fruits and melons, and they would get all over the crowd. And that's fairly harmless stuff, especially in sort of the post-COVID or, COVID plus era here that we're in. You don't want to be messing with the bodily fluids going out into the crowd. I say that, but I spit, but it's okay because there's not a live crowd over here. It's just Hilton. Anyways, there's also a list of things that need to be approved before it's performed on the television or in a match. And it says here, this is verbatim from the document itself. These need to be approved by a coach or producer and the medical staff that are there. Spots and bumps on the ring apron on the outside. Sorry, Commander. You're going to have to get your permission slip signed every time you do the little thing on the ropes where you spring off of it. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of people are going to have to get permission to do that stuff because a lot of the matches have spots that go down on the outside. Tables, ladders, chair spots in and out of the ring. That stuff is only allowed with padding. So, I mean, obviously, for example, recently we had Sting coming off the ladder. And again, this is stuff where if you're building a match the day of the show or whatever, and you're like, hey, what should we do? Okay, can we do like a table spot? Let me go talk to the medical people and get their permission to do that. And they're like, sure, go ahead. We don't have any other table spots. Because one of the ideas behind this list here is coordination so that there isn't a spot towards the beginning of the show that you then see later on in the show. I think recently at one of the pay-per-views, I kind of noticed during my review over at Going in Raw that there was a spot that happened on early in the show, and they did the same kind of spot later on in the show. And yeah, I could see how that would lessen the impact. So maybe just to make sure there's no repeats of spots going on to make these spots more impactful. Also, any elevated spots outside of the barricades, meaning dives and ladder spots on the stage, around the arena, and other places outside of the ring. This next one is actually very interesting because I feel like it affects everybody, and everybody now is going to have to think about what they're doing in a match before they do it. So I don't know how this is going to work. All pile driver / tombstone variations, including sit-down drivers, inverted / poison hurricane ranas, and vertebreakers. That one's interesting because a lot of those type of pile driver moves are standard in the move sets of a lot of these AEW wrestlers. Obviously, WWE has locked down on the pile drivers ages ago, and it's kind of a special moment when somebody does it. Obviously, Undertaker does the tombstone whenever he wants to do it. He retired, but you know what I mean. CM Punk and John Cena did a pile driver spot where they were like, we're going to do this because we're a big deal and they're not going to say no. And then they did that and everybody's like, oh my God, they did a pile driver. Even though like most pile drivers are just two people who sort of fall over. But other people, like a lot of the people just use pile drivers in AEWs as sort of like a standard move. So it's going to be kind of interesting. Some of those wrestlers who are reading this are going to be like, okay, well, I need to get like some sort of like a blank check. I need to get like a whole packet of permission slips. And every time I show up at an AEW taping, just whip one out and say, here's my permission slip. Can you please sign it for me? Also, high-risk dives or top rope moves, including 450s, 630s, double moonsaults, shooting star presses, etc. Intentional bleeding of any sort, not just blading. So obviously, there's the one where you got the blade. Pro Wrestling Secrets Exposed right now. You get the blade and you go like that. Or I guess in the case like didn't Mox in some death, this wasn't an AEW, but like recently did a death match where they put a bunch of those, I forget what they're called. Oh man, it's on the tip of my tongue. Whatever they are, he jammed them in his head. So yeah, kind of any type of intentional bleeding. If you accidentally bleed in a match and it wasn't intentional, then you can't predict that. Also, throwing people into, through, or over ring steps, commentary table, bell table, or guardrail / barricades, that has to be approved. Again, maybe just to, avoid some redundancy. Also, weapons usage, chairs, pipes, kendo sticks, hammers, ring bells, bats, chains, etc., title belts, thumbtacks, skewers. That's the thing that Mox had in his head, the skewers. Barbed wire and other sharp / puncturing objects like powders, aerosol sprays, or liquids. So again, you got like the Outcasts, and they bring a big old booklet of permission slips, and they're like, gonna do this here. Here you go. Throwing any weapons or objects like chairs, choking, strangling with hands or a weapon, or hanging spots. I don't know who'd want to do that. Injury spots or angles, whether or not medical is involved or called to the ring. So if part of your match involves a spot where, oh, God, I did my knee and the ref has to do this thing, you got to get that stuff approved first. Any physicality in the crowd or crowd brawling, any physicality involving referees, managers, extra celebrities, or special guests, and yeah, that's it. So like everything AEW does now, they have to run it through like medical and other stuff. I mean, unless it's just like a Ring of Honor mat-based match type situation. No, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. So I've seen a lot of people online being like, oh my God, it's just turning into WWE now. What are we going to do? They're not going to be allowed to do anything. I think for some wrestlers, this might be like a minor inconvenience because it's like, I do pile drivers. Am I good to do a pile driver? Okay, cool. I'm going to do a pile driver. But for most wrestlers, I kind of feel like this is much ado about nothing. I saw this tweet here from Sean Ross Sapp, who wrote this particular article, and he said this: I see the AEW Moves ban thing as a multi-pronged effort. Better prepare the refs for medical and dangerous spots. Better prepare refs and medical for dangerous spots. Avoid repeating spots. Better communication between coaches and TV production to prepare them. Avoiding unnecessary lawsuits. General safety and better communication from talent to coaches to refs to medical to production to the people running things. He also did a video. I'll link that in the description. It also seems kind of obvious that AEW, according to Fightful Select again, are deep in negotiations for a new TV deal. And I have no doubt, and this is Steve WrestleJuice speculation, that Tony Khan is going to want to boast about a $1 billion deal. That's why there's talk about WBD wanting more pay-per-view revenue. So maybe monthly pay-per-views is going to be something we can expect from AEW, or at least special events that you can put on Max in order to generate more revenue from subscribers. And I would imagine that some of this is just what they call due diligence. Make sure that what we have going on here in AEW before we sign a $1 billion deal for probably 5 years of television, including all the shows they have now, plus a bunch of pay-per-view stuff. All that won't get WBD in trouble because, you know, you saw the Tiger Driver 91 they did with Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay. I get the feeling that maybe somebody got a finger wag on that one. Like, hey, you guys probably shouldn't be doing this. Whether it was intentional or not for Kenny to almost land on his head, I don't know. But it seems to me that they've got this massive, massive deal coming through, and the days of just go out there and do a match, make it a good one, are probably over. Now it's going to be like, you can do a good match, but let's all just sort of figure out we're not stepping on each other's feet. We're not doing a spot that we just saw 30 minutes ago. And we're making sure that like somebody isn't going to get, you know, like Hep C from just buying a ticket and being in the audience and then getting a bunch of blood splatter on them. That's not really how Hep C works, by the way. But if somebody, anyways, so that was in jest. That was a joke, tongue in cheek. I know Hep C is not something I should joke about. Anyways, so that's sort of how I feel this is. A big money deal comes with it responsibilities. And AEW is a big time company now. If they're going to get that bill, then yeah, they're going to have a responsibility to not just the fans, not just people at home, but of course, the people footing that $1 billion check, because that's exactly how it comes. It's like one single giant, like it's like a prize check that Tony Khan's going to get. It says $1 billion. And in the little memo section, it says AEW TV. Anyways, that's going to do it for this episode. What do you guys think about AEW tightening up their ship and running a tighter ship? What do they call it? What do Taz call it? A sloppy shop over at WWE. Well, AEW's trying not to be a sloppy shop anymore. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below. Check out one of these videos right here. I got 2 videos. You check them out. Check out my quiz video and then whatever this one is over here. Call it X, whatever this X video